I don't know why, but this art is so beautiful to me. I keep seeing it around. Sometimes other people draw their own versions of it, and other times it's just someone sharing or retweeting this drawing and kind of chatting about it. Every time I look at it, I feel like I'm putting a different meaning to it. Like every time it stares at me, I'm trying to decipher what the stare is conveying. And every time I come up with something a little different. If you watched the Chainsaw Man movie or read the manga, then you know who this is. And if you haven't, then go away. I don't care to avoid spoilers, and honestly, you won't even know what I'm talking about. But I find that this stare, this amazing artwork, really conveys so much of Reze's character. When you stare at those eyes, you can't help but wonder, what is she thinking? What's going on in her head? And honestly, I have a few different ideas, but I doubt there is a 100% true idea. Only Fujimoto knows, and he's like actually psychotic, so he probably doesn't know either. But first things first, all credit for this work of art goes to Jason Kim on Twitter. Seriously, I don't know how they did it, but they conveyed some emotion here that I just can't grasp. I have so many little ideas on what this could mean, on what's being told here, but nothing comes together perfectly. It's like we're seeing this raw emotion from Reze, like there's so many conflicting feelings and thoughts that are bubbling under the surface. And right now, she's forced to pick between them to do something she does and doesn't want to do. There's a couple ways I've tried to interpret this drawing. My first idea is that this is a very in-the-moment look. During this moment, she's being confronted by this crazy-ass serial killer who's saying some of the most vulgar things you've ever heard in both an attempt to intimidate her, and the story's also kind of reaffirming his own craziness. And during this moment, Reze is playing the part of a scared schoolgirl who's desperately running away from the maniac. And with everything that we've seen of her up to this point, it's not crazy to think that this is genuinely what Reze is like. All of her previous scenes are nice ones. She's kind of off-putting and comes on way too strong, but you'd never think that she's violent or crazy or any of the things she actually is. But in this moment, But in this movie, we get this close-up, and as Jason Kim has captured so perfectly, good job! It betrays everything we know about her and conveys so much. In this exact moment, if you don't want to go too deeply with it, it's pretty easy to think, oh, Reze's got something bigger going on, and this random-ass encounter is putting a dent in her plans. And despite how much she's played the part of the frightened schoolgirl, she's obviously pissed that she's being interrupted. Something I really think is interesting is that this stare isn't in the manga. There's a panel that shows about half her face that could maybe be this same moment, but it seems to me like this is an addition that only the movie has. And I think it's because Fujimoto, or whoever was in charge, really wanted to add just that tiniest sliver of extra emotion to Reze's face. They really wanted to portray that feeling of frustration and anger that this expression shows. It like beams these emotions into your brain. But I genuinely think that this single look goes so much deeper than that. To me, it represents everything that Reze is feeling and kind of just is. It's not only a turn of the moment, grr, I'm so annoyed at this guy. I don't know why she has that voice. But it's more of a kind of commentary on everything she's experiencing right now. If we're to assume that from the get-go, Reze was after the chainsaw devil heart that Denji has, then it's safe to say that just about everything up until this point has been manipulation. It was all done so that she could corner him, kill him, and take his heart. But in the short time she spent with him, she did grow affectionate. By the time she's on this rooftop, Reze has had so many chances to kill Denji. In the pool, in any of the classrooms, hell, maybe even the phone booth if she was quick enough. But she didn't. And the fact that she didn't tells me that whether it was through researching Denji beforehand or simply spending time with him, she came to realize that he was exactly like her. Some child that was roped into being a weapon. You can tell in certain scenes that she's probing him for information. When she asks him about school and he tells her that he's never been to school, she talks about how, oh my gosh, that's so messed up, and how the government shouldn't do that. And at first you're thinking, oh yeah, that's true. Reze seems like she has a good head on her shoulders. But once you know the full scope of Reze's character, you realize why she calls out how messed up Denji's situation is. You can see why she's so quick to empathize and even ask him to run away with her. I think to properly understand Reze's mentality and character, you have to know two things. One, her backstory. And two, she's fucking crazy. At the end of the movie, or the part of the manga that deals with Reze, you find out that she was part of this super secret Soviet program that was experimenting on kids. And it's highly implied that that's who she was working with the entire time. And that her mission was to capture Denji, or more importantly his heart, and bring it back to the Soviets. Also, side tangent here, I never knew for sure if she was working for the Soviet Union. I mean, the way Kishibe explains it in the end makes me think that the program was exposed by some journalists and then disbanded. So maybe she was just going after his heart for an anonymous third party. Kind of like what's happening during the International Assassin arc, because that's what everyone else is doing during that thing. Whatever. It doesn't really matter, because like I said, Reze sees herself in Denji, and it's because of her upbringing that she sees the connection between the two of them. She's never been to school either. She didn't get to live a normal life. She's a killer, a trained one, a dangerous one. No doubt her entire life she's been doing this kind of work. Work that always ended in bloodshed. And I think she assumes Denji is in the same situation, and in a way he is, obviously. But her backstory and his backstory differ greatly. Where Reze is implied to have been an experimental slave to the Soviet Union from day one, Denji actually had a kinda nice upbringing. He did live through the maxed out version of child poverty, but at least he had Pochita. He had some sort of familial connection. And I think that's why Denji doesn't run away with her. That's why he chooses to stay and keep living this seemingly good life he's been handed. Denji isn't smart enough, or maybe he's willingly blind, but he doesn't realize how much he's being used, while Reze, having been used her whole life, can only see how he's being used. When she realizes that Denji isn't going to leave with her, she kind of turns into what Denji is, another crazy devil hybrid that'll do the job they've been assigned. There's definitely a metaphor here about how these weapon devils are always forced into servitude. Denji serves Makima, and Reze serves the Soviet Union, or, like I said earlier, maybe something else. Knowing Reze's backstory and how she views Denji is the first major part of understanding her mentality. The second part, as I said, is understanding that she's crazy, but in the exact same way that Denji is. Do you ever notice that whenever Denji is in a fight, especially in the earlier parts of Chainsaw Man, he pretty quickly loses his mind? He doesn't go totally off the deep end, but you can tell that when he's in combat, all those inhibitions and societal norms just poof, they fade away. He becomes a pure killing machine. Take the Eternity Devil fight as a prime example of this. When Denji fights, he fights hard. What Denji lacks in proper societal or emotional intelligence, or even literal intelligence, he makes up for with what I want to call tactical intelligence. Using the Eternity Devil's own eternal flesh so that he can stay fueled and fight for days is a crazy, weird, just bonkers thing to do, but it is a smart move. Using Beam while fighting Reze seems silly and irrational at the time, but having a mount that he can use to navigate around the battlefield ends up being incredibly helpful. More helpful than the Spider-Man swinging I think Angel and Beam were kind of wanting him to do. The point I'm trying to make is that Denji seems deranged and wild during his fights, and let's be honest, he is, but it's easy to forget just how smart he can be during combat. And with Reze, it's a lot of the same way. She uses her powers in such a fluent, vibrant way that it's easy to forget how deranged she is. And to bring it all back to the point of this video, I think that's another interpretation of this stare. It's some of that insanity peeking through. It's that part of her that houses the bomb devil that is pushing through her eyes. I bet every instinct she has is telling her to absolutely to absolutely demolish this guy, to turn him inside out simply because he's in her way. It's like these two parts of her are at war. The part that's a monster that kills innocents without a second thought, that can send her own headless body sprinting into a crowd while she eats a guy in the corner. And the other part of her that just wants to indulge in this moment, in this tiny part of her life where she can be a normal girl. As much as Denji has loved spending time with Reze, I have no doubt that she feels the exact same way. Like I said, at any moment she could have killed him and been done with it. But she realizes that she's met a kindred soul, someone who's a monster like her, yet is still so desperate to live a happy, regular life. In a way, both Denji and Reze are monsters, but neither of them want to be one. And I feel like another interpretation of this stare is that Monster Reze is trying to claw its way back up to the surface. She's slightly losing that grip on herself, and that's why that eye twitches. It's like the typical "I'm going crazy" anime gesture. Or maybe it's something else. That's what I think is so beautiful about this drawing, because it seems like every single time I look at it, I see a different interpretation. Sometimes I think she sees this guy as so incredibly sick in the head that he disgusts her, and that she can't help but think about how in the next 30 seconds she's gonna end his life completely. Other times I think it's her realizing that this fantasy of being a typical girl with a typical guy is just utterly falling apart. Or maybe it's that she's realizing just how deep of a hole she's dug for herself. She's noticing that she has all these emotions and feelings for Denji that she would be better off just completely getting rid of. Or it could just be exhaustion. Reze's probably so tired of being a weapon, and tired of lying, and tired of every single aspect of this bloody business that she's stuck in. This guy's talking about peeling out her eyeballs. Great. She's gonna have to go and tear Denji apart later. Great. And for some reason the Typhoon Devil's here. Great. It's really up to you what you see in this image, how you feel about it, what it means to you. But regardless, I think it's so thought-provoking. Not only because it captures that one shot in the movie so well, but also because of how Fujimoto wrote Reze. Honestly, when I first read through the manga, I didn't really think much about Reze. I thought it was sweet to see Denji find a girl that was kind of on his side, but then that all fell apart, she died, and that was it. When you have the context of there's so much more to the story, it's easy to forget about Reze and disregard it as a sad but brief part of Denji's life. But this movie, man, I don't know, it really brought something out of me. Some weird affection I didn't realize I had for the character. And seeing Reze and Denji animated and going through the motions of a strange but cute relationship was really nice. I honestly think I liked the early part of the movie more than the action, and the action was fantastic. Some of the best animation I've seen in a hot minute. Though, I did think it was kind of hard to follow at times, but still, it's very well done. But these softer, more tender moments where Denji and Reze are just existing happily together, I don't know, maybe I'm just like a lonely bastard, but man, this movie really pulled at my heartstrings. And then seeing this amazing drawing pop up over and over again for the following weeks just brought those feelings back. And each time I found a new meaning for them, a new interpretation for who or what Reze is. Everything about Reze makes me so sad, and I get it. That's the point. You're supposed to look at this art or this movie or the manga and feel that longing, that desire to have just seen things work out instead of, well, everything that happened happening. Obviously, Chainsaw Man wouldn't have been as effective if it was a happy story, and if you've ever read Fire Punch, then you know that Fujimoto doesn't really do happy endings or happy stories, but still, it's, I don't know, sad, I guess. That's art for you though, right? If it made you happy all the time, then it wouldn't really be art, would it? Regardless, thank you for watching. I know this video was probably really messy once it's all edited and done and whatever, but I'd really love to read some other interpretations of what you guys think this stare means in the comments below. Whether it's a matter-of-fact simple response or a more metaphorical one you have, I have a feeling people will interpret this amazing drawing in a lot of different ways, and I'd love to read what everybody has to say. Of course, the credit for this drawing goes once again to Jason Kim. You really captured something special here, and even looking at it now, as I'm writing the script, I still can't quite grasp exactly how it makes me feel, which, again, I think that's the point. Also, I claim literally no credit for the drawing, and I do not mean to kind of steal it for my own video or anything like that. I think this is like fair copyright or whatever, since it's like a discussion of the movie and the drawing and whatever else, but I really hope nobody takes this as me stealing the drawing for my own thing. I just saw the Chainsaw Man movie, and then I saw this drawing, and I really just wanted to say something about the both of them, about how they made me feel. So please go and check out Jason Kim's Twitter, say something nice, I don't know. There's a lot of good art on there. Anyways, here's another drawing Jason Kim made. Okay, bye!